Imagine no possessions or fake lyrical expressions. It's Rhyme and Reason 855.
Here's your rhyme and reason. Oh, yeah.
Hey there, Tony here. And I know I probably don't have to tell you this, but imagination can be an awesome and powerful force. But, it can be used for good or evil, so it can also be a hypocritical and destructive force. You can imagine yourself flying on your own power over the clouds and even through the ocean. And you can imagine no possessions in a world where everyone shares everything. And you can imagine you're more virtuous than the next person because you say so. How about that? You probably picked up on the imagine no possessions part, right? Yeah, it's a phrase from the lyrics to John Lennon's song, Imagine. And when you actually examine his lyrics and then examine his actual life, there's a more than slight discrepancy. Yeah, there really is. And I'm going to share a little glaring example of that in just a minute. It doesn't exactly show up in the first verse. He says, imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Nope, that's just the musings of someone who'd rather be God than acknowledge the existence of the God. And I consider it a very weak and hopeless use of imagination, by the way, because it implies there's nothing to look forward to after you die. So people should be living for today because tomorrow might be the end. Then Mr. Lennon, supposedly with the help of his wife Yoko, expanded on his need to be God. In fact, he decided his worldview, which opposes God, is the one that can deliver peace. He said, imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do, nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer. Anyway, then in the chorus, like I just sang, he set himself up as just a dreamer. And he basically said, if everyone else would just be a dreamer too, we'd have one big happy world. Yep, the old one world order dream. Didn't some wise guy say there's nothing new under the sun? So nothing new to see here, right? You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will be as one. So, it's cool for John to suggest everybody be like him, but it's not cool for me to suggest everyone should be like Jesus. Okay, good to know. Anyway, now we get to the part where Mr. and maybe Mrs. Lennon reveals his hypocrisy, although I'm sure that's not what he intended. He says, imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger, a brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer. Oh, sorry, I got into it again. Well, evidently, John only imagined those concepts because he sure didn't carry them out. At least not the way the lyrics would have you imagine. See what I did there? His estimated net worth at the time of his death in 1980 was somewhere around $200 million. And by calculations that I've seen, that's equal to about $620 million in today's money. So, just think of having $620 million and you're singing about imagine no possessions. And he definitely owned possessions, by the way. And I'm talking about even the fancy schmancy stuff. Matter of fact, on June 29th in 1985, his 1965 Rolls-Royce Phantom 5 limousine, also looks like Phantom V, Roman numeral 5, with psychedelic paintwork and whatever other trimmings he had inside, it sold for a record amount, a little over $3 million. It was part of a Sotheby's auction in New York, and they don't auction off used cheap stuff, by the way. So just think of it. If John Lennon would have actually shared Like he said, all the world, instead of only imagining it, he could have given 200 people or families $1 million each. That's $1 million to 200 homes. Yeah. Or let's say 199 and he keeps $1 million. He has 200 different households with $1 million in it. But no, he had all the 200 million in his household. Now, you can imagine what a difference that could have made in a lot of people's lives. Some of them would have destroyed them, but you can imagine that would have made a big difference. They had money now, but he didn't do that. Maybe he wasn't really a hypocrite. Maybe he just didn't get around to it, sharing all that stuff before his untimely death. At the hands of a deranged murderer, by the way. And a little side note, if only that murderer would have paid more attention to John's lyrics, right? Could have all been avoided. Yep. Maybe John knew his fortune would be in the hands of his benevolent and caring, sharing wife. Maybe that's why he didn't take care of spreading around the wealth. After all, Yoko was with him at all those give peace a chance photo ops, so surely she has spread the wealth around by now, right? Well, according to the online sources I've seen, Yoko's net worth is somewhere around $700 million. Yeah, but she's probably just ironing out the details for which 700 people or families are going to get their $1 million each, right? Or let's say $699 and she keeps $1 million. Because it's got to be so difficult for her to have all that dough and imagine no possessions. That can't be easy. Well, that's how it goes sometimes, when you're out there, living life large and you get busy. Sometimes you can't really do all that you imagine. And I guess that's really what it boils down to. Can you truly live among your dreams and among your things? What you buy, you'll give up someday. And where will you be when all heaven sings? That's from a song of mine off of the Amen album. It's called Book of Life, that song is. And there are links to that. Anyway, you can go over there to TonyFunderburk.com and find that. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of a little rant on celebrity status and what they think about possessions. And as always, remember, life has rhyme and reason because God made you.
There's a rhyme and reason.